Monday. It's Monday. Thank God we made it till Monday. What's going on, y'all out there? How you feeling? Hope you're feeling good, because guess what? I'm feeling pretty good. So there was this book by Hans Christian Andersen, and it was back in, I think it was 1837. So he had written a short story about this guy. He was an emperor. So he was, like most emperors, full of himself, and he liked to spend lavishly on clothes and everything else for back in that time. So what happens is that these two con men, they come in and they're like, you know what, Emperor, we can make you the finest clothes. We can make you the best clothes you've ever seen in your life. So he commissioned these guys. So when they start making the clothes, so some of his officials will come in and check from time to time and say, well, it doesn't look like they're really making anything. So once they allegedly finished making the clothes, they came back and got the emperor and said, Emperor, your clothes are ready. And so what they did was they took them and actually, you know how like a mime is where they act like they're touching the glass. They act like they were dressing him. So they dressed him, they put him on. And because no one else wanted to look inept or stupid, these two con men made it seem as though he had on the finest clothes that people could wear. It was invisible wear. So in true conceited emperor form, he goes out and he's like, oh, and so none of his officials want to say anything to him because they don't want to seem stupid. So he actually goes outside, and what happens? He goes outside and because none of his people that he rules over want to seem stupid. But just like a kid, the kid comes out and says, ho, look, the emperor has no clothes. Wow. And then immediately they all start to see that the emperor is full of it. Now, how does that correlate to what we're talking about today? So the president that we have currently, Donald Trump, he's been able to get away and get around a bunch of different issues throughout this last term and even this term. And I think this term is even more bold because he knows that he can't run for another term. So he has decided to piss off his base. He's done a lot of talking, called some of the MAGA kids stupid. And so let's see. So what I want to do, let's play a quick clip about him talking. This is about 2 weeks ago, about him talking about Epstein.
Also during that cabinet meeting, questions about disgraced late financier Jeffrey Epstein. The fresh scrutiny comes after a new report out of the DOJ and the FBI that found that Epstein had, quote, no client list or any evidence that he blackmailed prominent figures. Listen to the president shut down a reporter when attempting to ask Attorney General Pam Bondi about that memo.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration.
Now, eventually, AG.
So, as you can see, the young lady with the blonde hair happens to be the top attorney in the country. She is the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. So, of course, she's picked by him, as is most of the other appointments that he has. So, of course, she's not going to go against him. She's going to say or do whatever she can do to ensure that she doesn't put herself, her own career at risk. So she's going to go along with her boss. So if he says there's no Epstein files, there's no this, there's no that, there's no file, oh, it was just all made up. But if you remember, you go back and do your research, at a certain point, Donald Trump would always talk about it and say how the Democrats were to blame for that. Where's this Epstein list? Why don't they want to bring it out? What about the JFK files? What about the Martin Luther King files? A lot of different things that now, because we know that he oversees the FBI also. So these different entities of government, nobody now has a straight answer. You just heard what Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, said, oh, they're pornographic, child pornographic tapes that nobody in the light ever see. Right, because are there officials that or people that are in powerful places that are on those tapes? You see, this is where where the rubber has to start hitting the road, where you talk about the type of people that we choose to elect, the type of people, and I've talked about this before, even back earlier this year, whether you like a person or not, you still need a person who can stand up and has some integrity, some values, a way of looking at life where you can say, okay, none of us are perfect, but I think that this person does have a high moral ceiling, that this person will attempt to try, to do the right thing. But now we have an emperor who thinks that he always has these new clothes. But is this the time where we see that he doesn't have any clothes on and that he's really lacking in a lot of areas? Because nobody wants to be associated with a pedophile, right? Or a potential pedophile. And once again, like I said, because it would even be irresponsible of me to say that our president is dealing or has dealt with underage women, because that has not come out. But there is starting to become an issue where he seemingly does not want this to come out because of affiliation, because of whatever it is. And you can see plenty of times in just different videos. Once again, you can go back and YouTube it. He's actually doing the Carlton dance. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. He's sitting there doing that with a room full of women and Jeffrey Epstein. So they definitely have a stronger connection than he may want to lead on nowadays, especially now that Epstein is dead and cannot speak for himself. Even if you look back, they have a video now that has been circulating where there is a minute or two that is missing from the tape or from the alleged surveillance at the jail that's not being shown now. But this is what I talk about. This is the kind of thing where you'll have people who don't vote and say, oh, my vote doesn't count or whatever. But how about this? Just let's say, for instance, you feel that way. You didn't vote for Kamala or whomever or Hillary the first time going against them because your vote doesn't count. Well, how does it feel to be as complicit knowing that you didn't try to vote to try to help him not be in there? Because when you don't vote, your vote really doesn't count. And in some ways, especially because it's your right to be able to vote if you're eligible to vote, you should go and do it, especially because in yourself morally, even if you feel like it may be a losing situation, you do it because morally, this is as good human, decent adults what we are charged to do. You are charged, I am charged with doing something to say, hey, listen, this is my civic duty. Not to sit around and complain about this person's in office or they didn't have this happen or why did that happen and all this other kind of stuff. Because this is the type of immorality that happens. This is the type of craziness that goes on, especially when you're dealing with a person like this. The guy really thinks that nothing can harm him. And we'll see, as time goes on, will these Epstein files affect him? Will they not? Because he's had a lot of covering up by a lot of different people, Maggie'ites out there. Okay? So then I hear about, I've seen different podcasters that won't name names and people who are staunch Republican supporters, huge famous ones, white and black. What do you have to say now? Now, some of them have spoken out against it, but what do you have to say now? Because like I said earlier, nobody wants to be associated with pedophilia, right? Nobody wants to be associated with that. So I'm just asking, Where's the loud stomping now? Why is the president that you voted for concealing possible information about now what appears to be a homicide of Jeffrey Epstein? And most people would say, hey, who cares? He was a dirtbag anyway. But people still have the right to live life without having to have to worry about because they're getting killed because of an alleged cover-up or a possible cover-up. So you tell me, what do you think? Do you think this is the thing that'll take Trump down? And the big part is that I sit back and look at it and I say, you know what? Well, and the reason why I played that clip is because that clip is almost 2 weeks old and they are still talking about it, which is surprising even to me, because typically they just fall right in line. And like last week, I saw people putting MAGA hats, the red hat on the grill. They're barbecuing the hats and all of this other kind of stuff. And to me, it's all baloney. Because guess what? You still voted for him knowing that he had these issues, knowing that he committed adultery and slept with a porn star, knowing that he told another reporter at the time, yeah, I'll just grab him by the you know what. You knew all of this. So that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody wants to hear anybody's moral cries now. People don't want to hear it. When you decide to go along, it's just like even with growing up, right? And I talk about a lot about this, like growing up in the inner city, and you have a couple of decisions to make. Of course, it's your city, so you're going to be around, or your neighborhood, so you're going to be around certain people that may not be great for you to be around. But at a certain point, especially when you become a certain age, you start to realize, hey, which way am I going to go in my life? Which way am I going to go? Which people am I going to associate myself with? And a lot of people who are on the MAGA side of things or Republican at this point, is it the same thing? Is it just regular Republicans that aren't obsessed with the Make America Great hats? I don't know. But what I will say is that you all still voted for the same guy. You all still stood behind him and all of the other rhetoric and BS that he was spewing. So stick behind him now. Stay with him now. Don't jump ship now, because guess what? Your vote is already in. The monies, the support, that's already been given. Same thing with Elon Musk. Still love Teslas, but guess what? You've done a lot of this stuff to yourself, but you're richer than God, so it really doesn't matter to you. But like I said, when you choose to run with certain people, I don't want to hear all of the other stuff, especially when there's nothing you can do to reverse it. Because see, once a politician is already elected, especially since they have the House and the Senate, you know how hard it is to get somebody impeached, which is just investigated, impeached to be removed out of office? You know how difficult that is at this point? But you know what, we'll see. Because guys like me always have hope, always look for a brighter future when it comes down to certain things. And, I'm going to continue to vote. I hope that you continue to vote. I hope that we all continue to be people to try to bring change to a always evolving and crazy world. But hey, that's just the way I feel. Tell me how you feel in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed your weekend. And, oh, that's right. Live life. Don't let life live you.